Hey there, it's Anne. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use despite, in spite of, despite the fact that, and in spite of the fact that in your speaking and writing. All four of these phrases mean exactly the same thing. They show unexpected contrast. Let me show you what I mean, and then let me show you how they work in a sentence. So I have this friend, Sheila. Sheila is 90 years old. She looks great. But normally when a person is 90 years old, they're not super active. They probably move slowly and they probably don't do a lot of heavy exercise. Sheila is 90 years old and Sheila runs 6 miles every morning. You probably did not expect me to tell you that. You probably didn't expect that Sheila would run 6 miles every morning because Sheila is 90 years old. So these two things are kind of unexpected. Wow, she's 90 years old and she runs 6 miles every morning. So to connect these ideas, I can use one of our phrases. Let me show you how it works. My friend Sheila is 90 years old. Despite her age, she runs 6 miles every morning. So like I said, I'm contrasting these two ideas, her age, which is very old, and the fact that she runs 6 miles every morning. I can use in spite of exactly the same way. Remember, it means the same thing, and despite and in spite of, 3 words, they function the exact same way in a sentence. So I can also say this. In spite of her age, she runs 6 miles every morning. Let's look at another example. So this is an example about Paulo. Paulo worked really hard on a science project. And if you work really hard on a school project, you expect to do well, to get a good grade. But that's not what happened. So Paulo worked really hard on his science project. In spite of his hard work, he got a bad grade. So this is an unexpected result from his hard work. And I can use in spite of to connect these two ideas and highlight the fact that this is unexpected. And like I said, I can use despite in exactly the same way. Paulo worked really hard on his science project. Despite his hard work, he got a bad grade. So despite and in spite of, like I said, they mean the same thing. They function the same way in a sentence, these two. And let me show you the grammar rule for despite and in spite of. So with in spite of and despite, you use this in front of a noun, or could be a modified noun like this. In spite of his hard work. The noun here is work, and we're modifying it with his hard work. But it's a noun phrase, same as this. In spite of her age. Age is a noun. So this is what we can say. We can say in spite of her age. And the same with this fight. We can say despite his hard work and despite her age. So this one is correct, in spite of his hard work, but not this one. In spite of he worked hard. No, this is a clause. This one has a subject, he, and a verb, worked. So we can't say in spite of he worked hard. This is a common mistake that a lot of students make, but it's really not correct. And same with something like this. Despite he worked hard. You can't do that. Remember, you can use despite and in spite of in front of just a noun, something like his hard work or her age, but not like this. So this one is not correct, in spite of he worked hard, but here's where we could use those longer phrases. We can say, in spite of the fact that he worked hard. So remember, all of these have the same meaning. We're just talking about some differences in grammar, like what comes after these phrases. So here, when we want to say he worked hard, I can use in spite of the fact that. So this whole long phrase is what we can use when we have a clause, like he worked hard. And it functions the same way with despite. So I can say, despite the fact that he worked hard. I can use this long phrase, which includes the fact that, in front of a clause with like a subject and a verb. So remember, these two are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. Well, all four of these mean the same thing, but we have two different grammar structures we're operating with. And despite the fact that and in spite of the fact that, they work exactly the same way in a sentence. So they can be just like this, as you can see right here. Despite the fact that he worked hard, he got a bad grade. Or in spite of the fact that Sheila is old, here's my subject, Sheila, and my verb is, she runs 6 miles every morning. So let me show you all together. I have, despite the fact that he worked hard, or in spite of the fact that Sheila is old. I'm using these long phrases with the fact that in front of a clause, like he worked hard and Sheila is old. Or I can express the same idea with despite and in spite of. I just am going to follow it only with a noun. Now there's just one more thing that I want to talk about, and this is about how you can place these words in a sentence because they can be in two different positions. Let me show you an example. So my friend Layla went to a restaurant and got food poisoning. That's terrible. Despite her bad experience, she went there again the next week. Okay, this is another unexpected situation. She had a terrible experience and she went again. I didn't expect that. But look how despite works in the sentence. Despite her bad experience. Remember, I'm using despite with the noun. So I can write the sentence like this. I can begin with despite her bad experience. Or I can put this in the second part of the sentence. I can say, she went there again despite her bad experience. And the only difference here is just a difference in punctuation. When I start with despite her bad experience, I need to use a comma. But when I put despite her bad experience in the second part of the sentence, then I don't need to use a comma. So that's the only difference there. So to review, we have 4 different phrases. We have despite, in spite of, despite the fact that, and in spite of the fact that. All of them show an unexpected contrast in ideas. From this group, we have 2 different grammatical patterns. Despite, in spite of, those go in front of a noun. Despite the fact that, in spite of the fact that, those go in front of a subject and verb. We can use these at the beginning of the sentence with a comma, or in the middle to begin the second part of the sentence without a comma. So you might ask me, why do we need to have 4 different ways to say the exact same thing? You can think about your writing. If you're writing a paragraph, you're writing an essay, something like a garden. You can do the same thing over and over and over, but it's not that interesting. When you can use different phrases and different patterns, it becomes a lot more interesting for your reader. Just like this garden right here has a lot of different flowers and colors, and it makes it really beautiful and interesting. So thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions about how to use these words, just leave me a note in the comment below. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.